Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be a very exciting one. It's going to be a little bit different than my past uploads. It's actually going to be an interview. This particular interview is with Ethan, the owner of Numismy, a brand new coin marketplace where you can buy, sell, and trade your rare numismatic items. I don't want to give away too much. It's going to be a very in-depth interview. If you guys are excited, don't forget to drop a like. This took a very, very long time to edit, but I hope you guys enjoy. If you guys haven't already followed me on Instagram, please do so. I post coins there all the time and also post lots of coin content. Don't forget to subscribe, and I hope you enjoy the video. Question number one actually comes from CoinEJake on Instagram, and he asks, will the site focus on just the sales of US coins, or will foreign coin sales also be pushed for and accepted?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's an interesting one that I thought about a little bit, and I think the technology behind the application really doesn't discriminate by any type of coin or really any type of item. So the thought process, at least initially, is to offer US coins and world coins, US paper currency and other paper currency and bullion products, very similar to what a normal coin dealer would deal in. Obviously, pictures work the same way, descriptions work the same way, make an offer, buy it now, all that good stuff works in a very similar way. It's just a matter of allowing the listings to make it onto the website. So it's certainly something that we're going to allow. I think the one piece of it that is going to be a little bit tricky is it's really easy for me to understand, okay, half cents, drape bust half cent, cap bust half cent, all these different types of American coinage. And I understand that world coinage and ancient coinage probably has thousands of different specific names for specific types of coins. And while we're going to allow people to list coins by the date, by the country of mintage, by the condition, by all of these more standard pieces, you're not going to be able to say in the actual filterable description what type of ancient coin it is or what type of foreign coin it is, the way that you might be able to say, oh, this is a draped bust half cent. That being said, in the actual listing, the title, you can say whatever you want, and the searchability is going to work through that. So if you say it's a 1787 German 10 mark, you're not going to be able to say it's a 10 mark in the actual listing, but in the title, you'd be able to say that it's a 10 mark coin. So I think that's going to be worked on and improved, but I think at launch, it's mostly going to be really good for US coins and currency and bullion, and probably less good for foreign coins and ancients, but still very usable for those things.
Great answer. Really appreciate the honesty on basically saying that it's going to be primarily focused towards US coins, but you also are not discluding obviously foreign coins.
Yeah.
That leads me into another question that I don't even have prepared, but you talked about basically guidelines on some of the things you can't include in the title. One thing I wonder, which is kind of a big issue with like a site like eBay, people put in their titles something like gem, BU, or they like to grade their coins that are raw. Are there going to be any regulations on something like that when people upload raw coins to your website?
Here's the way that we're going to prevent against issues there. And I think there might always be issues, but here's what we're thinking. It's going to be invite only for seller. Your average Joe Schmo person who wants to go onto the site and sell coins simply isn't going to be able to. It is going to start with a very compact number of sellers who we vetted and are store owners that you've heard of, Instagram dealers, Facebook dealers that you've heard of, people that everyone knows and trusts. Those people are going to be in the test group before launch and also going to be part of the platform at launch. That being said, as we move into later stages, those people are going to be able to invite other sellers to the platform, and also sellers are going to be able to apply into the platform. Even if a seller is invited by one of those dealers, it is going to look good on their record, but they're still going to have to go through the same application process, which is going to involve many questions around how many years they've been in the industry, providing references, how did you hear about Numismy, certifications, PCGS, ANA, eBay store, all of these different questions that allow us to feel really comfortable about who a seller is that's coming onto the platform. I don't believe that any of the people we're going to let on would do something that would jeopardize buyers. Some of those eBay dealers where they say, oh, it's a gem BU coin with amazing toning, but in reality, it's a cleaned coin with artificial toning. The initial impression, at least, is that the type of dealer that we're letting on the platform to sell is not going to be the type of dealer who would do that, and we'd be able to pick that out relatively quickly. But as a second piece there's reviews on seller sellers' store pages that are going to be public for people to look at and post. You can, very similar to eBay, go onto a seller's store page and see, oh, here are the reviews, here's the percent positive feedback, here's what people have to say about them who have purchased from them in the past. So I think those are the two safeguards, primarily the fact that selling is invite only and a random person can't come on and try to scam people.
I guess that leads me into another question, since you talked about people being able to leave reviews. If a seller at some point gets so many negative or neutral reviews, will his position on the website as a seller be held up into question?
Definitely. If a seller gets even a few negative reviews, they're not somebody we want on the platform. They'll probably be removed. If that is shipping slowly, that's less serious than I paid for my coin and it hasn't come and the seller's being unresponsive. If we heard something like that, immediately the seller would be called into question. If we heard it twice, they'd be gone. If it's they're shipping slowly, it would be a little bit slower, like, hey, you need to ship faster. If we heard that a few times, people are still getting the coins, but people aren't necessarily happy with the shipping speed, which is a little bit of a minor offense, then that could be kind of a gray area. So I think, as you know, when you purchase coins and when you sell coins, there's gray area offenses, which is, oh, they ship kind of slow, oh, their packaging isn't great, all that. But then there's the major offenses. They're selling cleaned coins over and over again when they know they're cleaned and they're advertising them as not. They're not sending the coin that they're posting. They're not shipping coins when I pay for them. They're not refunding me when they should. That good stuff would be an immediate removal, simply because we have such a demand on the sell side of people who want to sell on the platform. We simply don't need to deal with people who are not living up to those standards, especially when they're going to be able to benefit from the no-fee environment that it's providing.
Great answer. Always going into detail. I love it so far. It's really good. How will the site continue to stay free for buyers and sellers alike when it comes to transaction fees and percentage cuts?
Transaction fees is one of the main insights that got me really excited and made me feel comfortable that we could do something like this. Obviously, I think a lot of us have been struggling with fees on eBay, which are probably in like the 8 to 15% range, depending on what kind of seller you are. And then auction house fees, which might be 15 to 25% when you take into account the buy side buyer's premium. So if you think about seller's fees and even buyer's premiums, there's a part of that that is the platform fee, which is the take that the platform takes on top of the payment processing. And then there's the payment processing. So payment processing, for the most part, is somewhere along the lines of 2.9% plus 30 cents for credit cards. And I think a question that you asked in DMs, which I saw and which I got really excited about, that you were thinking in this direction, credit cards are all great and good, but what do you do about chargebacks? That's a huge issue. Something that really, when I was initially thinking about the idea and didn't have the second insight, was we're going to be seller invite only, and that's going to protect against a lot of issues. But what happens if a buyer pays with a credit card and they charge it back and they say that it's fraudulent, and then the buyer's out the money and we don't really have a way to handle it? That's a huge issue. So in response to that, and what seemed like a good solution that covers a bunch of bases, is to do what's called ACH, Automatic Clearinghouse. It's one of the services that Stripe offers and many other banks offer, but Stripe in particular, which is the payment processing platform that we're using for the marketplace. ACH is less than 1% for the payment processing, with a maximum payment processing fee of $5. So when you extrapolate a coin that's $10, 3%, 1%, whatever, is not going to kill you in payment processing fees. It's incredibly minimal. But when you think about doing transactions that are on the order of 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, which are very common in the numismatic industry, a 3% credit card fee kills you. 3% on 20,000, I think, is 600.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's payment processing fees. An ACH payment processing fee on a $20,000 transaction is $5. On top of that, it is not able to be charged back. It's not like you call your credit card company and say, hey, this is fraudulent, I need to take it back. Once an ACH payment clears, it's in that seller's account. There's a couple of situations there. So are sellers going to be protected? Yes. Should buyers feel comfortable sending ACH payments to these sellers? Yes. They're invited only. They're names that you recognize. They've gone through an extensive process. So that's the hope there. Third, it's going to take a little bit longer for sellers to ship because they need to wait the 2 to 3 days for that payment to process through and hit the account, instead of just seeing, oh, the credit card payment hit, you're ready to ship. But I think at the expense of the shipping time, you get a whole lot of safety on the seller's end and you get much better pricing on the buyer's end. And I think that's a risk that we were willing to run. That's one piece. That's the payment processing. I think the broader question, which is the main question, right, is how does the platform continue to exist?
Yes.
One piece of it is the main cost was the initial build and is continuing to be the initial build of the platform. But as far as running the platform on a day-to-day, month-to-month, year-to-year basis, it's not incredibly expensive, especially because it's not like we're going to eat that 1% or whatever it is ACH fee. It's 0.8%, maximum of 5. That is going to be in fact charged to the seller. The no fees is no platform fees for sellers' transactions. eBay, when they charge 10%, is getting 7 and 3% is going to the credit card processor. So 7% is eBay's take there. And for an auction house, it might be closer to 15%. We're not going to eat that. So that is going to be charged to the seller. It has to be. It would put us under in weeks. But I think sellers understand, right? It can't be no fees. It's no fee take from Numismy on a selling transactions. That's the way it's going to start and be for a very long period of time. It's going to be no Numismy take on sellers' transactions. That small payment processing fee, which is incredibly minimal, and we're not pocketing it. It's going to go to Stripe. And then the question becomes, okay, how does Numismy make money? What's your motivation?
Yes.
Why does this exist? That's the main question. And here's the general answer. Marketplaces online, it's great and good that they can charge 10%. And 20 years ago, when marketplaces and the technology were incredibly hard to build, nothing else could pop up and compete. But now the technology, while still relatively hard to build, is a lot cheaper to build and maintain. There's a profitable avenue to get a marketplace that doesn't have sellers fees, where a bunch of people are transacting with the coins that you see on eBay, but also the bigger coins that people wouldn't dare post on eBay because of the fees. There's ad revenue. There's allowing sellers to boost posts and pay maybe a percentage or two or a little bit more to get their post on the front page, to get sent out in a magazine. All those good things that can be tacked on and still maintain no selling fees at a general level. So there's going to be people who are going to be able to sell and not have to pay a fee. And then there's going to be people who make that choice and want to pay a small fee for the benefits that it entails. I think the final piece there is something relatively interesting, that selling is invite only. It's for people who are very, very trusted and we feel comfortable putting on the platform. But that doesn't mean that any seller can't benefit from what Numismy is offering. So I think what our plan is at some point, probably a year down the line, is to offer a situation where sellers who don't necessarily have the reputation to be approved can send their coins in and have them listed and posted on the platform, and we'll internally handle the shipping, the payment processing, all of that. Oh, wow. And I'm unclear what the fee for that would be. It's not something that's fully fleshed out, but it would certainly be less than the current options at 10% to 20%. It would essentially allow people who have coins to get the benefits of the Numismy platform and buyers without having to pay the 10 to 20% eBay auction house fees. But they need to get their hand held a little bit because we can't necessarily trust them to receive the ACH payments themselves. We can't necessarily trust them to abide by the same standards that other dealers would. That's generally how it would work. I think that would be a very small percentage of the coins that were being sold on Numismy, because I think the vast majority of sellers who are legitimate, who deserve to be selling on Numismy, well, all those sellers are going to be able to sell on Numismy. But then there's going to be a small percentage of people who would be those who inherit a coin collection and want to post it on eBay, or aren't a coin dealer, or a little bit of a collector and they want to sell their coins. Those kinds of people would essentially be able to ship the coins to Numismy, and then Numismy would post them, describe them appropriately, price them appropriately.
I love that a lot. That sounds like an amazing plan. Really good.
It allows for all of the amazing benefits that you're like, how is it possible to have this no fee marketplace? And is it going to be as profitable as eBay or Great Collections or Heritage? No, it's not. It's not going to charge the 10, 20% fees, but is it going to make money? Of course. There's a world where everyone can benefit. When you live between no fee and 20% fees on an incredible amount of money, there's a middle ground where money can be made, but people don't necessarily need to be exploited with 10 to 20% fees. Money can be made on ads. Money can be made on all kinds of things. Why doesn't Facebook charge you 10 cents a post? They don't charge you 10 cents a post because they have ads, they have marketplace, they have all these other things.
I understand why a seller would want to move to this platform, but how will you move the loyal customers from eBay, Great Collections, and Heritage?
That's the question I was hoping you'd ask. Why are customers loyal to eBay, Great Collections, and Heritage? I think they should be loyal to the dealers who they trust to buy from on those platforms. Yeah. Why does a US Coins and Jewelry, a Witter Coin, and a very established dealer need to sit behind the guise of eBay and Great Collections and Heritage and all these other players to sell coins. They have a reputation of their own. They've built it up over decades. Buyers feel comfortable buying from them. Why do they then need to go to these platforms and pay 10 to 20% fees to sell coins that are expensive? That makes no sense to me. Buyers should trust sellers of coins, numismatists, and that should be it. And I think the world that I hope for, don't necessarily think is going to come into reality, but I'd hope it would. If I am selling a $1,000 coin on eBay, I buy the coin for $900 and I want to sell it for $1,000. 10% profit. I have to hold it for a couple weeks, a month, whatever. Not an incredible amount of money to make. I can't sell that coin on eBay for $1,000, right? Right. I have to sell it for $1,100, $1,200.
Yeah.
So who benefits? No one.
No.
The buyer who goes on eBay has to pay 10 to 20% more. The seller who goes on eBay has to list their coin 10 to 20% higher. They miss out on the buyers who want to buy a coin at a reasonable price, and the buyers miss out on the reasonable prices that they should be expecting for coins. I think the best world is dealers say, hey guys, you see this coin listed on eBay for $1,200? Guess where it is also? It's on Numismy for $1,000. You see this coin that's on this site or that site? Oh yeah, by the way, I sell on Numismy too. All my listings are there also. It's there for 10% less. Say it's there for 5% less, right?
Yeah.
5% less gets the buyer a 5% better deal, gets the seller a 5% better deal. In economics, it's called deadweight loss, where there's a chunk in the market that is not productive for either party. That 10%, the middleman fee, is hurting the buyer because they can't get that 10% lower price, hurting the seller, they can't get a 10% higher price. There's a world where it's 5 and 5, 8 and 2, 10 and 0. Either way, it's better than dealing through this platform. So my hope would be that numismatists feel comfortable and say, hey, I'm moving all my customers, my loyal customers, to buy from me on this platform because I literally pay nothing. They're benefiting from ads. Maybe I'll boost a post every now and then. They have the buyers getting brought to them so they can do this Amazon FBA-esque piece. And customers benefit and I benefit. I hope that people would bring their customers to a platform like that. Everyone can make an account. Anyone can buy. Only certain people can sell.
Yeah. I mean, I know I would be. And, you know, you're talking about the eBay fees and how eBay is taking 10, 15%.
I don't know anybody who's paying less than 8% to eBay.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I've heard of some people paying like 9% or 10%.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't really know what the lowest numbers
and guess
are.
what? I think the lowest is 9.1 right now for coins or somewhere in that neighborhood. In order to pay the 9.1, you have to pay eBay a monthly subscription fee to get down to that seller status. So I am one of those people. I have to pay $250, $300 a year in order to have that lower seller's fee. So eBay gets me on the subscription and they get me on the 10% seller's fee.
Wow.
And here's a secondary point where sometimes people who are selling on eBay want to pull buyers off the platform. They themselves are trying to like send their phone number, send their email, send their address, anything to sell a coin that they're just getting eaten alive by on eBay. What does eBay do for that? They restrict phone number sharing. They restrict email sharing. They restrict all kinds of things in their chat functionality. Why do they restrict it? Because they have to. Yeah. Right? Because they know people want to leave.
Yeah.
They know it. They have to restrict it. On our platform, on a store, list your phone number, list your address, list where you're located, list your email address. I don't care because you only benefit from selling through the platform.
Yeah. I was going to say you trust them too. If they're a seller on there, you trust them, you back them. So there's nothing you're worried about.
It's like, why are people like literally trying every different way to weasel out of eBay? It makes sense because eBay's taking the money, and eBay's not criminal. That's not what I'm trying to say. They offer a service. They have a great platform. And 20 years ago, when that technology was impossible to build, they deserved to make 10 to 20% because it was just so hard to create a platform like that. It isn't that way anymore. You don't need to invest millions of dollars to create a platform like that. You don't need to have physical servers that cost an arm and a leg. It's different. So why are we still paying the 10 to 20% fees?
100%. Exactly. How will your site protect people's information, both on the buyer and seller side, from site hackers and doxers?
I tried to look up what doxing was. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So doxing is essentially where someone's able to pull all of your information, whether that be like credit cards, your address, personal information about your past, present. It's basically leaking all of your information, and hackers are able to do that. I can't get into the logistics on how they're able to do it, but they're essentially able to hack websites and get all this from a database where it's all stored. So wherever this information is all stored of people's credit cards, debit cards, whatever, essentially the site gets hacked and all of that information gets leaked.
I guess I'll start. Credit card, banking information is not at all going to be stored on our website. We're incorporating Stripe across the entire platform to handle the payments, to handle the shipping, to handle the marketplace at large. So what that looks like is when you click to buy an item or click to make an offer and that offer is accepted, you're brought from that website to Stripe, to the Stripe marketplace feature that's integrated with the site that gives sellers a seller dashboard and all these amazing tools that you see on eBay that you think, oh, they could never build that. Well, Stripe kind of allows us to integrate that, which is cool. All of the banking information, all of the credit card information, if somebody does choose to save it with Numismy, they'll have to like enter a code every time in order to like re-access their information, is all stored through Stripe, which is the most secure payment processing platform ever. Stripe is incredibly secure. It is the best of the best. It's the reason we're using it. They're an absolutely great software and great company, so we feel really confident in that. People's usernames, listings, addresses, all of that will be stored on the site itself in an AWS database. So Amazon Web Services is handling all of that. That information, to my knowledge, it's all secured by an SSL certificate, security license, or something to that effect. It's very similar to what's used on a Shopify platform or a Wix platform that handles people buying and selling items. So it has that level of security that was found across all sites of this nature.
Right.
That's the protections that are in place.
So you're essentially
that's
saying
what
Stripe and Amazon would have to get hacked in order for all this information to get out.
That's where the information's being kept.
And this is a question I wrote because I'm not familiar with how all that is stored. So I'm learning myself from you. Wasn't aware that it wouldn't be stored on the website. Essentially, it'd be stored somewhere else is what you're saying.
Yeah, so data for the website is being handled by AWS. So that's where that data lives. And the payment data lives with Stripe. And an integration between the two is what allows things to funnel.
Okay, this is definitely going to be a big one for a lot of people who are into heritage, eBay, etc. And the question is, will there be auctions on the website or will it all be retail, just selling, buy it now?
Yeah, so to start, definitely no auctions. That's something I feel pretty strongly about because when people are posting coins and maybe, it takes a little bit of time for buyers to find the platform and all that good stuff, like we're not going to be advertising. There's not money to advertise. The play is not, and this is kind of a different question, but the play is not to go everywhere and advertise and spend all this money and pull everyone off every platform. It's really to be the better solution and to have people kind of dribble in and be pulled in by their respective sellers. As far as auctions, when people list coins for buy it now and make an offer, the coins can sit there. They don't need to worry about a coin selling for a price below what it needs to sell for. And that's one situation. A very bad situation that I could foresee that would make a seller leave a platform like this would be a situation where they post a coin for auction, they're promised the world, and nobody shows up to the auction and it sells for an incredibly low price. That seller's never selling on Numismy again.
Great point. Never even thought of something like that. Yeah.
So down the road, can we do auctions? Yeah. Would I love to do auctions? They pull people to the site every week. Has Great Collections made an incredible business out of that? Yes. Like, would I love to pull people to the site every week? Yes. But without an incredibly large advertising campaign and customer acquisition costs and all that, you can't start with auctions. It's just not the way it works.
Good point. And it's 100% true. I understand. I would be very sad if I posted a mid-state 68 Morgan and it went for a couple $1,000s.
Right.
When somebody makes a sale, so let's say I sold a coin for $100 and the buyer just paid for it, would I be required to ship that item as soon as that money is sent, or would it be as soon as the money hits my account?
It's your account. Yeah, 2 to 3 days, I think. It does depend, but I think 2 to 3 days is the standard. And that's that delay that I was talking about. It's not perfect, but it kind of has to be done, and I think it's better.
Right. It's not instantaneous, but it's going to remove a lot of fees and a lot of stress. Will there be a maximum capacity for listings or sellers essentially on the website?
The amount of money, the incremental amount of money that needs to be paid to handle additional storage that's necessary for sellers to post a lot more coins on the platform is a price that we are internally willing to pay to support it. It's not high at all. So in the event that volume hit a point where we needed to up the amount of storage we were paying for, that would be fine. So that's a long way of saying that our plan is not at all to limit how many listings sellers can have, especially because it's going to be a limited number of sellers.
Right. Awesome. At May Purchasing on Instagram asks, will Numismy have a Facebook group?
It wasn't the original plan. Am I open to it? Of course. When I think about the way that coins can be sold, there are many options. There are the really nice technological ways that charge a fee, and there are the less technological ways that don't charge a fee. So on the no fee side, there's Instagram, Facebook, and coin shows, and people walk into your shop. High fee side, there's the eBay, the auction houses. The ones that are high fee offer ultimate convenience. Payments handled, shipping's handled, listings are handled. They can sit up there forever, all that good stuff. That's why you pay the fees. For Instagram, Facebook, shows, walk-ins, you don't let your inventory live for an extended period of time in a database that people can search through. You post a coin on Instagram, people see it for like a couple hours, and then it's down in their feed. Post it again, you have to bump it up. Right? People aren't going to see that ever again. You have to repost it. You have to drop the price. You have to do all these things just to reach the people who follow you. If somebody wants to buy a coin, you have to talk to them. You have to answer questions. You have to do all this stuff. It's done through DMs. People are annoying. You have to say, how do you want to pay me? All that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Until you finally get paid. So you save the fees, but at what cost? All the other complications. And that's why people have been forever going to these other convenience platforms, white glove. So there's a middle ground. There has to be a technology that allows coins to sit there as sort of an inventory database that allows people to pay instantaneously without communication, but not as white glove. You're not shipping coins that people are taking amazing pictures of and are getting listed up and getting charged 15%. That's the auction houses. So this is meant to be kind of a middle ground that gets the best pieces of all that, but in more of a bare bones kind of way. It's going to do what it needs to do, and that's kind of the thesis behind it.
There's going to be a Facebook.
Whatever gets people to hear about it. I mean, yeah, sure.
Old Glory _ Numismatics on Instagram asked, will the website be like the David Lawrence website, selling format, no buyer premium, etc., etc.?
Yeah, no buyer premium. I'm not as familiar with the David Lawrence website. Let me just quickly look at it. I wonder if it's like how coins are listed.
The whole, probably the way it's formatted he's referring to.
Yeah, it does actually look very similar to this.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, very similar. It'll look very similar to the David Lawrence website. Okay. You know, almost to a T, frankly. It looks very, very similar. The only difference is when you're a dealer on Numismy, you can actually post coins into the platform. So if you want to think about what Numismy is going to look like, and I do hope that we're going to launch in like a month or something, it's meant to be like eBay. It should function exactly like eBay. I don't think it's going to be as pretty around every turn or as functional around every turn. And it doesn't have a billion features. It has the features it needs to have to work the way it needs to. It doesn't have all the fluff. That's what I would expect, you know, when thinking about it for that question.
So I have a couple that my boss asked. He does own a coin shop. If you guys are not familiar with my boss, he owns the Gold Depot 2 in Chesterton, Indiana. Okay, so one of the questions he asked is, will you be able to access this website in all countries?
It lives on the internet. So if you can get to the internet in your country, there's not going to be a blocker that's going to come up and say, hey, you can't do this. Something that we're starting with is everything's going to be free shipping. If somebody wants to charge for shipping, they're just going to have to add that into their buy it now price. But if somebody in another country goes to buy a coin and the seller's assuming that they're paying US shipping and that person lives in another country, then that's a complication. On launch, sellers are not going to have to ship to China. So people are not going to be able to add addresses to the website that are outside the United States. And that's the address that's going to be fed through the payment processing platform through the integration. So the address that pops out to the seller, like, hey, you need to ship it here, is not going to be anywhere but the United States.
Okay. So in launch, it's basically going to be United States only.
Yeah, I think that's the plan. We don't need to do too much too early. Like, I feel comfortable launching to people in the United States. And if it works in the United States, then we can explore other things. And if it doesn't, then I doubt it's going to work anywhere else. We'll start with the United States. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
What was your boss's general thought process when you told him about the site, and what skepticism did he have, if any? Was it more on the end of excitement, and was it more on the end of, yeah, I could see myself posting on something like that? Or is it like, I'm too skeptical, I wouldn't do that?
Really amazing question. As soon as I told him, I have an interview with a man named Ethan developing Numismy, a website for selling coins. There's going to be no fees, in quotes, it might be the eBay killer. He was like, you know, doubt button. He was like, really? I don't know about that one. And his kind of reaction like you said, it was skepticism, which is probably what a lot of people are going to be like. And that's how I was when I first heard it, which is what led into us having this conversation. Was immediately I said, no, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
Because everybody, like we were talking about earlier, and mostly what you were talking about, everybody is so loyal to what it is they're buying on. And for a lot of people, that's eBay. And people are not loyal to sellers. They are just looking for the coin they're looking for. And when they find that coin, they're buying it. The way that he reacted, like I said, was just skepticism, but he also was kind of excited at the same time. So I think after he sees this interview, it's gonna push him more towards the excitement side, I hope. But honestly, I can't give you a 100% answer until he sees it, and probably even when he sees the website. Unfortunately, for a lot of people in this day and age, seeing is believing.
I think anybody who's not skeptical should be worried about themselves. I think everybody who has a good head on their shoulders should be very skeptical. I think for the longest time when I was selling, I was thinking to myself, why am I paying these fees? It's eating away at my profit. It makes it hard to sell coins. Sometimes I take a loss on a coin and eBay never takes a loss, or these other platforms. And I think so many of us are like, oh, this is just the way it is because I can trust eBay. The one thing that is guaranteed is that eBay is either making you pay 10% more or 15% more for the coin, or they're making the person that's selling you that coin get 10 to 15% less. Like one of those is true, if not a mixture of those two. What they're paying for when they do that is security, which is why we're deciding to be seller invite only. I think there's going to be a ton of skepticism. There should be. I'm excited that there's skepticism because that means people are really thinking like, could this work? Best case scenario, every seller pulls their stuff off eBay tomorrow, never sends their coins to any of these auction houses ever again, and just says, no, this is where I'm doing business. And when buyers go to these other websites, they say, wait, where'd the coins go? That's a world tomorrow where no payment fees are being paid for coins, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No, it probably won't happen instantly. But I mean, if the site builds up a reputation and if it's as good as you say it is, I don't see why it couldn't happen in years to come.
It's not like I'm trying to reinvent the wheel. Did a team of software developers build this site? Yes. Is it going to change the world? No. It's not a virtual reality coin thing where people get to go on a quest for coins around the world in ancient times. No. Right. Let me tell you one thing. I think this is an important piece to understand. So from today, the plan is this. The site's basically built, just a couple of last minute tweaks, mostly to design. Some functionality is being just played around with. In a couple of weeks, 1 to 2 weeks, we have a group of test users that we're going to launch with. They're going to get a beta version of the site. They're not going to be selling on it because there's not buyers. What they are going to be able to play around with is, what does it look like to message in the site? What does it look like to post a coin? What does it look like to go to the payment processing platform where a coin can be purchased? What does it look like to enter in my bank information? What does it look like to ship a coin? We're going to launch with those sellers and probably 10 more who are going to have to post a critical mass of coins on the website, and then we're going to go live. And all that said, we wanted to make it a lot easier for sellers to make this transition. You can download a CSV of your eBay listings from eBay and upload a CSV of those listings into Numismy. So if you can pull down 500 listings from eBay and pull in 500 listings into Numismy nearly instantaneously, it's going to make it a lot easier for people to make the switch. And hopefully people tell their buyers, you see this for $1,200 here, I guarantee you if you go onto this site called Numismy, you'll see it for 10% less.
Absolutely. That kind of leads me into something that I just thought about. Do you guys have a slogan, like a catchphrase for the website?
Yeah, for numismatists, by numismatists. The main situation there is we want to get across that you're not dealing with some huge corporate entity. You're dealing with another numismatist and a group of numismatists. And we're going to have a board that I've been building of YNs and dealers that I trust. People who are going to be able to inform the actions of the company.
And you yourself, the owner and developer of this website, are said numismatist, correct?
Yeah, I've probably been collecting coins since I was 8, so 15 years ago.
Wow.
I probably sold my first coin maybe when I was 12 or 13. I wasn't a dealer then, though. I lived somewhere between 15 years and 10 years.
You guys aren't already following Ethan on Instagram, it will be linked in the description. Seems like a really cool guy, and obviously he's been in numismatics for a while, so he definitely knows what he's talking about when it comes to coin sales and knowing his coins.
If I had to say anything, just maybe to close it out, Numismy is just meant to be a platform that fulfills the wish that I've had for a long time, to sell coins without getting eaten alive by fees. And I think For a long time, platforms have existed that have been able to get away with it. Every single coin dealer that I know has had the issue where they can't sell expensive coins or have to mark up coins unnecessarily to survive in this high fee atmosphere, or people who buy coins who have had to deal with high prices that are constantly rising that are incited because of these fees. For a long time, it seemed impossible. Every day now, it seems more and more possible. And, in a month here, or maybe somewhere around that period of time, the numismatic community is going to be able to see and play with that reality. And it's all a matter of where we as a community decide to do business. Where the buyers live, they're the ones who determine what happens.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the interview. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something new about this brand new coin marketplace coming very, very soon. If you guys are as excited as I am, don't forget to drop a like, leave your comments down below. Let me know. Let Ethan know. What do you think? What are your questions? What are your skepticisms? We want to hear it. He wants to hear it. We all want to hear it. Again, if this was not made clear enough in the video, I am not affiliated with Numismy. I am not an owner, nor am I even a dealer at this point. So everything in this video is as raw and genuine as I can make it. And again, I really hope you guys all enjoyed. Thank you.